This episode of the Grappler Union podcast is brought to you by BJJTees. Go to bjjtees.com, enter the promo code Grappler Union, and save 10% off all your jiu-jitsu apparel. Go to bjjtees.com today.
This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by Strychnine Jiu-Jitsu, makers of vintage-inspired tees, hoodies, and rash guards. Go to strychnine.co, that's strych9.co, and use the promo code UNION at checkout to receive 20% off your online order.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Grappler Union podcast. Paul Maloney alongside Anthony Zito. On this episode, we have Tony Williams in studio. Tony's a first-degree black belt under Carlson Gracie Jr., and he's the owner and head instructor at Rebel Sport and Fitness. Enjoy.
It ain't the 6 minutes. It's what happens in that 6 minutes.
You told me using any technique that works, never to limit myself to one style. Keep an open mind.
We're not here to take part, we're here to take over.
In order to become more peaceful, in order for you to become better and strategize your life.
All right, now we're on air. Tony Williams, welcome.
Thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now it's Tony Tiger Williams, is that right?
Tony Tiger, right? Definitely not Tony the Tiger.
Not the Tiger, it's Tony Tiger.
Carlson
Williams.
Sr. made that name up.
Oh, yeah?
And I think it was just because he didn't say the word the.
Okay,
like he just came over from
Tony
Brazil.
Tiger.
Yeah.
So it's Tony Tiger. Right?
They leave words out.
That was it. That's it. Tiger. So that's been the nickname, and I'm rolling with it.
Hell yeah, you got to roll with that.
That or the college nickname was Tony Spanks, and you don't want to go into that one. So,
Oh, no, let's hear this one.
yeah, you don't want to go into that one.
Was that before the actual like brand of Spanx came out?
Yeah, most definitely.
Shit.
It was Touchdown Tony, but there was another guy there that was Touchdown Tony, and I wasn't really scoring many touchdowns, so it was just kind of a funny nickname that stuck with me from my best friends, and to this day they still call me that. So I let them know, you guys can call me Spanx, but everybody else calls me Tiger. So it's all good. It's all good.
So you have friends outside jiu-jitsu?
Just a few here and there.
How dare you?
Jeez.
Here and there. And they look at, the funny thing is, like, a lot of these guys are like my old teammates from college. So naturally, they might not be too familiar with jiu-jitsu, but they still know how to talk smack and still know, all right, so you know this fighting stuff? Well, all right, let's get it down. So I've had a friend where every year that we've seen each other, we're now, 20 years out of college, whatever, we get it down. Like, I wrestle him, I try to tap him out, and he puts up a fight. And, when I was younger, like, it was a test for me. I was like, can I take this big dude down? I try to pin him in the bed, pin him between the beds in the hotel room, and get after him. But it was, it was always a good time. But they always try to test me and see if I know anything, and I let them know I do. So it's all good.
Yeah.
So what was it, basketball or football?
Football. Yeah, I went to University of Wisconsin.
You did say touchdowns.
Yeah. So that was I got to give it to football is actually the reason that I started jiu-jitsu.
Really?
Yeah, because I think I was telling you guys before that I'm playing football. First year I get there, and not knowing what you don't know, I end up on probation because I'm just like overwhelmed. I'm taking like 15 or 16 credits or whatever, plus playing football, and it's kicking my butt. So I end up on probation. Next semester or next year, I'm a little bit smarter, and I take like 10 credits.
Yeah.
Take 2 big courses. I got to fill 2 credits, and I go to my one guy, Touchdown Tony. I say, man, I need 2 credits. Like what classes do you recommend? So first class was military science. Fantastic class. Learned so much in that one. And then my second class was judo. And I knew nothing about it, but he's like, man, it's cool. It's going to help you with your balance and all this kind of stuff. So I went in there and fell in love with it. I mean, we're doing like break falls on basketball floor. There's no mat, just hardcore and getting after it. And and it was good stuff. Like, it was all good with me. I really enjoyed it. And then that fleshed itself out to that same instructor teaching me in his in the basement of a church. He was teaching me Japanese jiu-jitsu, like more self-defense jiu-jitsu. During this time, one of the guys that I'm training with, like my training partner, another bigger 6'3", bigger guy, whatever, he's like, have you ever seen this UFC stuff? And I'm like, no, but I'll go check it out, of course. So I head down, I'm going to date myself, I head down to Blockbuster and go in there, pull up, like, I think there was like the first like UFC 1, UFC 2 maybe. And even more important is right next to it is the video of Choke. Carlson Gracie Choke, right? So I'm kind of psyched because I'm like, the UFC stuff's gonna be good, but I really want to see this jiu-jitsu stuff kind of by itself. I watched the UFC stuff first, get all hyped up over seeing, you know, the Gracie family and Hoist walking out, all this kind of stuff. And I hear that little line about he's not even the best in the family, this Carlson guy. So I'm all jazzed up, and then I go watch Choke, and I see like Carlson sucking his stomach in past his rib cage, and you know, he takes out the whole tournament, gets put in the guillotine, does the somersault over the top, and I'm just like sold. I'm like, that's it. I got to find out who this guy is. Just like overnight. So the following week, I'm training in football. We're out in our stadium having a workout or whatever, and there's this guy walking on his hands with his feet in like a wheel, like a. How do I explain it? Like a wheelbarrow wheel, like a small 2-foot wheel or whatever. Okay. But he's got like straps on his feet, and he's walking the length of the football field, kind of like using this unicycle wheel kind of, and he's yoked. So two things across my mind. I'm like, one, how did he get into the workout? Because every workout's usually closed. You know, how is this guy on the field or whatever? But like, who is this dude? Is he like a recruit or something? Like, who the heck is this guy? So sure enough, after the workout, I go up to him, start talking to him. And he's like, yeah, I do jiu-jitsu. And I'm like, who do you do jiu-jitsu with? Carlson Gracie.
Get out.
Done.
Fuck.
That Saturday, that was it.
And this is, where is this at?
This is Madison, Wisconsin.
Madison, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Who's the dude?
John Hines.
John Hines.
So he's a really interesting dude. He's got his black belt through, I'm not going to remember who now, and I'm not even going to try to guess. But like I said, John was a freak of nature, this big, huge, you know, I don't know, 6'2", 6'3", could easily be 250 if he wanted, was more lean at like 225, 40-inch vertical, but he fought with this Carlson Gracie style of just ultra smooth, ultra relaxed, focusing on his breathing, pressure out the wazoo. Just a fantastic style of jiu-jitsu for me to like start learning from. There was nothing aggressive about it as intense that it was. So I started with John, and that was really it. I kept going, and I went on to, after I left Wisconsin, went to the University of Iowa as a strength coach for the football team. While I'm there, there's no jiu-jitsu at the University of Iowa, which is like kind of crazy to me. So I start the jiu-jitsu program there, which I think is still going on. And like all the wrestlers are coming through, and it's just all out battles. And here I am teaching. I maybe have like probably like 2.5 years of jiu-jitsu underneath my belt. But at that time, that was like, you know, most guys that was somebody that knew something. So I remember like going against these wrestlers, and they would come in there and we would just go nonstop and put them in submissions, and they wouldn't tap. They didn't know what tapping was. Right. You know what I'm saying? So like all they knew to be tough. Right. Unless you put them to sleep, there was no tapping. Take you down in a second. It was phenomenal. During that time, my girlfriend moves to Chicago. She moves down the block from Carlson Gracie Academy. Nice. So like all these things are like falling into place. Right. Every other weekend, I'm coming out to Chicago to go train at Carlson's. First class in the Carlson's, I go there. Carlson is fighting Daniel Viana in Speedos. Okay. You know, like for an American, you're not kind of used to seeing that. So to walk into like the academy and they're just sweating it out, going after each other. I'm like, all right, this is the real deal. Like this is what I saw in those tapes from Brazil. Right. Right. So I walk up in there, and it's just phenomenal. First class, I get put to sleep for the first time. That was a great experience. That was a classic case of a guy saying, all right, let's just go light. Let's just go light. Pulls me right into his triangle.
Nice.
And within 2 seconds, I'm out for the first time.
Who's that guy?
I think his name was Vic. All the old Carlson Gracie guys will like kind of like laugh and remember. I think he got kicked out the academy because he used to hurt people. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah,
one of those guys.
That was kind of like one of Junior's rules. If you hurt somebody, you can't train until until they recover.
Oh, wow.
And
shit.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And like they didn't really. It wasn't being held like too strong. But in that situation, I think he hurt like one person too many, and Carlson's like, all right, you're out of here. But and that was it, man. Seeing them fight and that whole experience of and just the opportunity, and then out of nowhere, I got a job offer from the Chicago Bears. So it was
out of nowhere. You didn't even apply for it?
No.
What?
No, not at all. I don't know if you really do apply for them, but so
what were you doing? What were you like? What were you doing for the Bears? Like, how did that even? Like, what were you doing at the time?
I was a strength coach with Iowa, with the football team, and just from kind of like dotting my I's and crossing my T's and just kind of being that guy in college that's known as being dependable, and just kind of like. Word gets around, people are calling up looking for this, a recommendation on a person. My name gets passed, and out of nowhere, I get an offer to be like an administrative scout.
Okay.
Which is really just kind of like a secretary position, but I still got to scout and go all over the country and stuff like that. So it was still a great experience. But the fact was, now I got to go to live in Chicago. Go train with Carlson. Like that was always kind of like my guiding force in a lot of the decisions I was making. And even after the Bears fired the whole staff, and now like I'm sitting here without a job, I'm like, I'm going to stay in Chicago because I want to train jiu-jitsu. It's that important to me. I started working at the East Bank Club as a personal trainer, and that's really where it kind of took me into like this current path of having my own gym, training athletes, and just really following the strength conditioning path that I was doing in college and went to Iowa for. So, it's been a little bit of a around the world kind of journey, but I'm back doing exactly what I should be doing.
Yeah,
Sounds
like it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. So tell us a little about the gym you have.
So I'm on my second gym now. I got to give shout outs to my first gym, Elite Sports Performance, with my boy Macy Brooks. So I opened up a gym out in Oswego. Okay, way out there.
Yeah.
Big sucker, like indoor soccer fields.
Wow.
Good deal, man. So it was a real big experience, but there wasn't a lot of jiu-jitsu going on out there. So that was always kind of like something I was trying to figure out. And at this time, as I have my brown belt, and here I am kind of opening up the business, but I want to get my black belt. It's like right there in front of me.
Right.
It ends up being that I end up at brown belt for 7 years because of taking the time to go really focus on the gym. And I'm still training. I'm still training nonstop, but I'm not training necessarily at the academy a lot. So Carlson's not seeing me, and I knew that was part of part of the process. Like I have to get back in the academy. They got to see me. I got to compete, stuff like that. So between that kind of push, the fact that I just had my son being born, and then the overwhelming fact that the gym's like 3 hours away with traffic every day, it's just driving me mad. So had to make the tough decision to say, all right, I think the best choice is for me to kind of focus on being in the city, let the gym do its thing out there, but I'm going to come back to the city. So started doing personal training. I was working at Hi-Fi Gym as a independent trainer, and then just kept getting the itch. Like I need to just do my own thing. I just need to get out, do my own thing. And you want something bad enough, and like the universe returns it, So opportunity kind of knocked, and before I know it, I got my gym, Rebel Sport and Fitness. We're a smaller gym, but we get a ton of stuff done. Very unique training. It's really all my training experience fleshed out, as opposed to being at other gyms and having to use their equipment and kind of figure my way around it. This is kind of my baby, so it's a lot of fun to be growing it, plus the jiu-jitsu side of it, working with a whole new bunch of beginners in jiu-jitsu, people that, we're starting from square root one, like it's a step back in terms of all the sport stuff that you do, all the sport jiu-jitsu and all that sport technique that you get on. But fortunate for me, I'm still over at Chicago MMA. I teach over there, so I'm seeing some guys, Patrick Appleton and Josh and all the other guys over there. So that's been a phenomenal environment for me to continuously get better.
Yeah, good guys over there.
Yeah,
man.
those guys are getting good. And, Alex Rajasic over there is just on a whole nother level.
Yeah, we heard about that guy.
Yeah,
too.
so he's really just transformed the entire academy because he brought the whole leg lock game.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like brought whole new life to jiu-jitsu for me, and not that I was ever sad about it or feeling like lost before,
Right.
but definitely I'm up thinking nonstop about new techniques and just adapting the game now, and the leg locks have definitely been a wide eye opener. Did them before. Always, everybody. Kind of the funny thing is, whenever a guy was about to get his black belt at Carlson's, he was generally tapping everybody out and winning tournaments with leg locks. Okay. And I kept seeing like that. That kept happening from all the guys that were coming before me. And we'd go through these phases where we'd do them in training and get good success, but then you kind of feel like you're being an asshole by doing them, so you wouldn't do them anymore. You kind of go away from doing it, and now it's full bore. I don't care if you're a white belt to black belt, where we're hitting them. So it's a lot of fun. It's good stuff, man.
I've been backing off the leg locks recently, just because I was really heavy leg lock initially, and that's just how I was brought up. Because Javier was one of my coaches. Javier, he's a heavy leg locker, and his classes were phenomenal. So I really adapted my game around his leg lock system.
Leg lock system. Yeah.
But now being at Monaco's, I'm really trying to concentrate on the other part. Like the upper half.
Yeah,
so my arm bars, my triangles,
Passing.
my chokes, passing. So I've kind of put that on the back burner now.
Right.
And when people now are leg locking me, I'm like, oh, what the fuck?
You got to go back to the dark
playing
side.
that now? We gonna play that?
Come on, man. You're rolling your eyes at people.
I do a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm like, man.
Go back to the dark side.
Because then they just drop back for it. I'm like, what the fuck? I got to defend this now. I don't want to go there.
Right.
I don't want to play that footsie game right now.
If it's shit technique, when they fall back, I punish them
Do
for
you?
it. Oh
Yeah.
fuck yeah! I'm gonna take the hardest two you've ever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And smash. How do you feel about that, Tony? You think that everyone should be thrown into it, the leg lock game from the beginning, or do you kind of like the way you came
I
up?
mean,
where
I
it's
think
like,
from a safety standpoint, I think there are other techniques that are just as dangerous. So, reaping, I don't think is something that needs to be feared. I think that's something that should be practiced from the very get-go. So you know how to get out of it, so you know how to react to it. As with all submissions. So I think, from the adult, we're not necessarily talking kids.
Right.
And the reason for kids where it might be more dangerous is because they're just more hypermobile. So you might be putting something on a can and it really doesn't hurt to them until it's really, really too dangerous. And we don't want to mess with kids, and who are still growing and stuff like that. But for adults, I think that there really is as much danger with a heel hook as there is with an Americana or a Kimura. So from that standpoint, I think, all techniques should be taught. And even if you're not necessarily competing or you're not necessarily doing them in competition, I still think you should be doing them in training. In training, one of the things that would really drive me crazy is like if somebody says, "Oh, I can't do that. That's illegal." Like if we're just sparring, like there's no refs on on an open mat or something like that. So from that standpoint, you're going to be fighting different belts as you're doing your sparring session. So I feel like you should kind of be open to all submissions, and that's the way you're going to learn. So I think that there's kind of like an overreaction to it. maybe some politics to why it isn't allowed and so forth. But like I always tell all the guys in regards to the rule sets, at any given moment, we can wake up tomorrow and see IBJJF is going to allow heel hooks, going to allow everything, whatever, boom.
Right.
It's all about market share. And if they're losing market share to somebody else because of a stupid rule,
Right.
they're going to change the rule to get back their money share. So let's not be caught behind the 8 ball because we're not practicing these techniques, and all of a sudden now they're going to change the rule and we have to change our jiu-jitsu.
Well, it's already happening. Guys are already behind the ball with it, especially if you come from like an IBJJF heavy gym.
Yeah.
And you're going in there and you're winning comps and your jiu-jitsu is really good. And you're like, well, fuck it. I'm going to go enter this comp over here and it's sub only whatever, submission hunters or whatever. You're going up against dudes that train almost predominantly no gi.
Yep.
And with a lot of leg locks.
And you're not going to be prepped for it.
And you're not going to be prepped for it at all.
You're not going to be prepped for it. And, you know, it's going to be a situation where
That happens all the time
all
right
the time, nonstop. And that's why I go back to, you know, a lot of, not to just knock IBJ, but just a lot of sport competition for a long time was basically a guard passing competition. One thing that's like frustrated the crap out of me in my fights is being held by my gi for 2 or 3 minutes. And you get like one stall call and that's it. And person's just holding your sleeves and holding your wrists and not allowing you to move, or they got double unders and they're holding the back of the collar in half guard and just digging their head into your chin or something. So, you know, I'd rather see them push the moves toward, or push the rule set towards making sure that we keep the action moving, that we take all that stalling out of it. Yeah. Because right now an IBJ tournament is pass the guard, stall. Pass the guard, hold your position. Pass the guard, get to mount, stall. That's why you can have all these intricate worm guards and all this kind of stuff with the gi, because it buys time. It buys time. It ties your opponent up, and then all you have to really do is get a sweep, and you're going to be at you're going to have a big advantage over your opponent with the time and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I prefer the submission only events just from the standpoint that everything goes. But we have to be careful that we're not becoming like so loosey-goosey, because, you know what, passing guard still has a value in real fights. Yeah. You know, so it has to be kept relevant. But at the same time, I can't stand the rules of some of the sport competitions. They're really holding jiu-jitsu back the way I see it.
But I do. But you know, I'm a firm believer in not letting your guard get past.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, there's some, you know, people out there are just like, oh wow, it's sub only, whatever. It doesn't matter if you pass my guard, because who cares?
No, you'll have side control on someone, and they have a better possibility of getting you in a leg entanglement if you mount them.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That lets you mount.
They're giving you a superior position.
Yeah. Right. Yep. And that's
usually that's in no gi, not in the gi. Really.
That's in no gi, yes. But Jesus, that's kind of moving backwards a bit.
Yeah,
in my eyes. You know what I mean? Yeah, for sure. You could definitely get at the legs better from that position. But like, let's not forget, like,
you're not gonna let someone mount you in the street.
This is a martial art. Right. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
it looks silly. 2 guys fighting, and the one guy passes super easy. Yeah. And then the guy on the bottom just allows him to mount him super easy. It's like, what are we doing?
It's kind
here?
of embarrassing.
It is a little
bit.
You know what I mean?
I don't even care if you get the leg lock after that.
Yeah, because you already got beat up.
You already got
beat up.
Punched right in the face.
You're done. Right. You know what I mean? You got stomped in the face.
That shit doesn't happen in combat jiu-jitsu.
No.
You know, it's like the what was that? The Ryzen tournament out in New York, where they had points. It was submission only, everything goes, but they had points. So a lot of the sport guys were still, some of the sport guys were still able to win because they racked up points on guard passes and mounts and stuff like that. And I think that's the way it should go. There should still be points for
sub only.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Submission only, or sub only. All submissions go, all positions go, but there's still points for the positions.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think, and bring back points for takedowns.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care if, give 10 points for a takedown. I don't care. Just bring back the value. And I'm just exaggerating out. But, you know, don't want the judo guys just come in there and wreck shop and wrestlers. But we need to bring that back into the game. It can't just be sitting on your butt and pulling guard looking for a leg entanglement, or sitting on your butt pulling guard looking for worm guard. Like, that's where the sport's going backward, and that's the sport getting too cute to win, for people to win medals. You know, and
What about like jump guard? You believe in that? What do you think about that?
There's reasons for all techniques. If I'm fighting a guy that's just like a statue and I can't take him down, there's no way to like get the action moving, then maybe I do jump to guard. But at the same time, I don't want to risk even being slammed. So
yes, that's true.
I kind of have ways of just trying to pull guard more so than jumping to guard. I'd rather kind of make him kind of come forward into my guard by sitting kind of down and away from him. More
Putting the foot on the hip and coming in and dragging him into you, or more like a lapel drag to.
I don't do the foot on the hip, because foot on the hip, guys expect it, they grab it, and they kind of pass right away. So actually what I do is I step on their foot.
Do you really?
Yeah, step right on the top of the foot, and then I'm able to stop them from stepping forward.
I see.
As I sit back and put my butt to the ground.
Okay.
So now they're kind of caught bent over with all this weight pulling on the front of their gi, and it's going to allow me to like have my butt on the ground, now put my feet up to their hips and get to guard with them stretched out, so I can actually elevate them off that, usually off that guard pull. So at this point, I don't want to jump and have somebody like push me down and tailbone hits the ground and stuff like that. So just trying to be smarter and the takedown game, definitely.
We were just talking last episode, Tony, about like this new rule set when Kenny Jewell hit you up.
Yeah.
This new rule set that he's trying to work on, which is first to 13 points, but
sub only,
no time limit. So it's like first to 13 points, but you could get a submission right away, with no points. No time limit, first to 13.
That's interesting.
Or it's not. You're not going to lose. You're not going to have someone take you down, get 2, and then stall you out.
Right.
You know what I mean? They still have 11 more points to earn. There will
gotta
be
move. Yeah,
there will
that's
be
kinda
transitions. And if you're a sub only guy, you've got plenty of opportunities to submit them because they're busy scoring points on you. They're moving.
You got opportunity to try to get what you got to get.
Right.
I do like that.
I think that's gonna.
I like that.
I think that
like
rule
it a
set's
lot.
going to make some noise, man.
I do like that a lot. I hope he can get out there on a big platform.
Right.
I know he's calling it to gi or not to gi.
Yeah, here's the
because
catch.
You coin flip whether you're going to be doing it gi or no gi right there.
That's what's up.
Right.
I
Cool.
like that.
You like that? That is cool.
I like that, man.
Now, I'm not a huge fan of the name. That's just me personally. To
Right.
gi or not to gi. I think it's a hard market, for that. I think you should come up with some really cool name for it for that tournament. But the fucking
really
rule
think
set
about the
is
name.
the name has got to be like
It's got to be
super.
good. Yeah.
That's a phenomenal idea, though.
Isn't it?
I do like that.
It's fucking cool.
Yeah, that's sweet. And, hey, man.
It's hard to complain about that rule set.
Oh yeah, who's gonna? I mean, it's either gi or no gi right off the bat, and then no time limit, sub only, or first to 13. Come on, everybody's game.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that kind of like broken down, like time wise.
Yeah, what are the
What's
averages?
the norm
Right,
of
exactly.
points and stuff like that. But that I dig that.
I know.
I think anything. There's an answer out there, and the fact that we're kind of staying with this like old, antiquated system that's really not progressing the sport, kind of holding it back.
Yeah,
we got to adjust. We got to adjust.
I agree.
There's
I mean, to
opportunity.
get it more mainstream,
Exactly.
get more eyes on the
Yeah.
game. It's a different generation. They want the information right away. No one's waiting around.
Yeah.
For a 50-50 match. In IBJJF.
Right.
Why are the guys just sitting there 50-50?
Right.
Well, we can't do heel hooks, so that's why they can sit
Yeah.
there in that position.
It's
If you do heel hooks, they're not sitting in that position.
It's done. Yeah.
It's over with.
Doesn't make any sense.
I
to me.
don't understand why the IBJJF won't allow it no-gi. There should definitely be heel hooks no-gi.
Why is gi so much different than no? Why? Because you could hold them in more. Because it's more fabric. Is that what the danger is?
There's just
More
so many
friction.
Yeah, but there's just so many more options in the gi as far as like sweeps and
What, for heel
just
hooks?
with all the handles. I don't know. I think you're taking away a huge part of the art if you just throw heel hooks in like that. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I mean, look at the Hoyler versus Eddie match. Hoyler was able to grab Eddie's gi and basically stop him from destroying his leg completely.
Right.
So if you threw that in, both them wearing gis and they were going for a heel hook, that I've never done a heel hook in the gi. You can hold and then not get heel hooked because you have stuff to grab onto. Whereas in no gi, you're getting heel hooked. You got to squirm out of it or you're going to get heel hooked.
Right.
So I'm thinking in gi, it might be easier to defend a heel hook. I don't know. I've never tried doing a heel hook in gi. It's weird, but I never have.
You know, like over at Chicago MMA, we fight, whether it's gi or no gi class, we fight full bore.
Okay.
So, you know, in a lot of heel hook situations, you're probably grabbing the collar.
Okay.
And that's going to probably buy you some time.
I see.
But at the same time, you can also use the gi to like get the heel hook position.
Sure.
You can use your gi for that same position, and it's so you can gain as much as you lose with the gi.
Okay.
You know, so I think that's another side to it. When you start talking about like the 4-1-1 position, all that kind of stuff, when a person's grabbing onto your pants legs, as opposed to just like a no-gi situation where you can kind of slip out with the sweat and so forth. When it's a person grabbing your pants leg, like you really got to think your way out of there.
Yeah.
So I think it would actually advance the game, advance the jiu-jitsu game by just saying all submissions go, but with the gi.
Yeah.
Let's keep it that way. I'd even like to see combat jiu-jitsu with the gi.
Sure.
Like, just let it rock, man. Let jiu-jitsu be jiu-jitsu in all its forms.
Yeah.
Forget all these silly rules that are kind of meant to hold. I think I've always felt like kind of how like judo said you can't touch the pants no more. Like that was a reaction to wrestlers going into judo and taking down judo players.
I see.
So then judo says, all right, well, you can't grab the pants leg no more to kind of stop that. I feel like that's what jiu-jitsu was doing with leg locks. We're taking leg locks out of it to stop a certain aspect of fighters from beating up our top fighters.
Right.
And you know, we just it's holding the sport back more than it's advancing it by doing that kind of taking that kind of stand. So I'd love to see it change, and hopefully it's soon. And or you're going to keep seeing more popularity with the submission only events. They're just going to keep popping up, and you know, you're going to see young kids tapping out black belts.
Right.
Yeah, that's part of it.
If heel hooks were allowed in the gi from the beginning, would there be certain part of the games that never developed? Do you know what I'm saying? Like the Berimbolo game, for instance, from like deep De La Hiva hook. I mean, you're essentially putting yourself in the honey hole there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So would the Berimbolo have progressed the way it did if heel hooks were always there? Worm guard. You're taking the lapel and wrapping it around your own leg. The leg, which is basically laying across their hip where they could just jump right into ashi and get a heel hook from there. We might not have worm guard if that was the case. You know what I mean? So you're completely changing the game in that regard.
Yeah.
I think the gi is so busy and it has so many options that it's unnecessary to throw that in there.
To throw heel hooks.
Throw heel hooks in there.
Okay.
I don't think it's needed. You know what I mean?
It's not that I think it's needed. I just think that
no gi. Why the hell not in the IBJJF?
Right.
You know what I mean?
I mean,
you know, even on the gi side of it, you'll still have berimbolos, you'll still have all those moves, even though you have counters to those moves, just like every other jiu-jitsu move. There's counters to everything. So, you know, there'll still be crazy berimbolo games. There'll still be a worm guard. There'll still be all those things, but they'll be more sensitive to what they're open to properly.
Right.
They'll be more sensitive to the counters. And if anything, it just opens up the chess match even more.
Right. Okay.
You know, somebody's going to get so good at it that doesn't matter that somebody's going to get so good at the worm guard, they're going to know how to defend all your attempts to get to the ashi and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, that's just going to push it, man. That's just going to push the technique forward. The more opportunities to submit, the more opportunities to sweep, the more opportunities to defend, just keeps pushing the game forward. So that I look at it that way more so than I hate the fact that there are different rule sets between gi and no gi. It's all the same fighting to me.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
by this time, 20-something years into it, like it's all the same. You're thinking of. There's definitely like been a progression with how I've been training where for my gi fighting, I try to fight as much no gi as possible. I try not to depend on the gi. I try not to do like fancy, intricate lapel holds and stuff like that, because when you go to no gi, then you're going to be a little bit lost. Okay. From the no gi side, I tend to fight like a gi fighter more, where I smash as hard as I can and tend to wrap their bodies up almost like I was wrapping them up with a gi. Whereas a lot of no-gi game is usually a little bit looser and wide open. Mm-hmm. I'm usually more wide open with my gi game.
And tighter with your no-gi.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't like the feeling of people being able to run away no-gi. So it tends to be a lot tighter. With the gi, I can just hold you.
Exactly.
If I have my eyes closed, I still know where you are.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. And I think that, I don't want to give the impression that like the heel hook is like the answer. Like, once you know the heel hook, that's it. It's like over with. Like every position, you just heel hook. It's very difficult to get a heel hook. It's not like an easy thing to get off on someone, a heel hook. People might think that, because the IBJJF doesn't have heel hooks and that's the taboo and, that must be the ultimate submission of all submissions. It trumps everything else. No fucking way. I mean, some new people out there who might be listening, they hear us talk about the heel hook and they're like, oh, that must be the ultimate one. That's all I need to know is that one. Right. And I can beat everybody. Right. It doesn't work that way. It's just an interesting way of how it's become that taboo submission.
For sure. There's whole Instagram feeds and channels based around the heel hook. You ever follow that? Yeah, it's
one submission.
It's just one of 1,000 heel hooks. Change my mind, and it's like the guy sitting at the desk with and it's like every day. I thought those guys, whoever runs the Instagram page Leg Locker, they must have been jerking off during that Danaher episode on Rogan. Oh, yeah. I guarantee you they're masturbating while listening to it. Those guys are so annoying with their leg locks. Don't
they have like a leg lock Hall of Fame now? It's good.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, it's good. No, I followed that Leg Locker because they do throw some good technique. I like following just technique people on Instagram,
right?
Because that's all I have time for is just show me the technique and then I'm off Instagram.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But the Leg Lock, they do like Leg Lock Hall of Fame and they have like Dean Lister in there and they just put, they just post pictures of these guys.
Right.
It's clever.
It's the new thing, or not even, the new thing. I mean, you got videos of Helio and Carlos doing leg locks. Sure. So it's the thing right now. Mm-hmm. It's definitely closed the gap between those guys that have been doing sport jiu-jitsu for a long time. You can learn, you could be a Nicky Ryan, and jump on the scene, learn leg locks, and go tap people pretty quick. Right. So, and then that's what I mean by the politics of it too. Like I said, nobody wants to see their champions getting beat by newcomers just off little leg locks and stuff like that. Something that was previously banned, and all of a sudden they say, okay, now it's legal, and all of a sudden you got newcomers just wiping out all the money makers that the sport has had. So,
but it's also good not to become a one-trick pony.
It's
very important. I mean, I saw that we had the Chicago Open obviously this past weekend, and I was watching some matches, and there's this girls match that I was watching, and she had a really good submission. She did a really good loop choke, pulled the head down. She grabbed the lapel, pulled him in, came under, boom, just choked out like quick. Yeah. I'm like, wow, okay. So she choked out that one girl. So I was watching her. I'm like, it's a pretty fucking quick submission. Next girl she fought, she was trying that, and that girl had an answer for that. Mm-hmm. So when that girl had an answer for that, she had no answer for any other part of the game.
She's so used to hitting that lapel.
All she does is hit that lapel loop, that loop choke
from the drag.
And that's all. She tried it on that girl probably another 3 or 4 times, and that girl just kept passing.
Right.
Boom. No others. And I was talking to Sean actually. I'm like, dude, that chick that's it. That's her trick.
Yeah.
That's all she works on. And her whole other game is shit.
Like the curse of competition training.
Yeah.
If you're going to... I had kind of a discussion before with a couple guys about what's the best way to get ready for a competition? Is it in every other sport, you focus very much on a very specific game plan. You don't practice everything that's possible out there. You work on a very specific game plan. You get really good at it. You scout your opponent, and they scout you, and so forth. But in jiu-jitsu, we kind of follow this other route where it's like, we're just going to teach you generally, and at some point you're going to be good enough to then go compete and win matches or whatever. So it's not as specific. So then you start seeing teams, competitors that start really working on specific game plans. You look at the Mendez brothers and how they were hitting the Barambolos. Now look at them and how they've developed 50 million game plans off of it versus like this girl you're talking about that has just one game plan. So that's just the difference between the Patriots and the Jets. She's not prepped the way she should be. Her coach is saying, you know what, you need to have A, B, C, and D. But that's also the curse of training for competitions and not seeing the bigger picture of all of jiu-jitsu. Not seeing the bigger picture of the, so what, okay, you got your guard pass, now what do you do? I find if you do a lot of competition training, there's some positions you might never ever get to just because you're trying to hit your go-to competition move. You might go a month without nobody ever getting on your back. You go to a tournament, what happens when a guy gets to your back? Right. You know, so that's what makes an art, and that's what's going to separate how one teacher teaches from another teacher. There is no right or wrong way to learn this huge amount of information that's out there right now. So it's the beauty of any martial art, I guess, is how do we figure this all out? How do we acquire all this knowledge that it's going to take a lifetime? And even then, you know, Eddie Bravo makes a great point. There are millions and millions of jiu-jitsu moves. We're never going to learn them all. So we might want to just start focusing on a few and really grooving those and coming up with a lot of different answers around those versus just this open-ended, come into class, learn one technique, go spar. You know, that kind of stuff drives me crazy. So,
you gotta have more tools in your toolbox.
The more, the better. So,
the more, the better.
Absolutely.
And when you're gonna, you know, use, you know, like Bruce Lee says, you know, use what is useful, discard what is useless. So you're gonna take what that is, right? So I like a certain game, and that's what I gravitate towards. You know, Paul's game is completely different from my game.
Absolutely,
he gravitates towards that game. You know, and that's why there's so many different moves, and that's why the matches, you know, can be so interesting because his game and my game are totally different. So when we get together, what's that going to look like? You know, and that's what's so cool about jiu-jitsu, because there's all these thousands and thousands of moves, and everyone has their own unique twist on what their jiu-jitsu is.
Absolutely,
like my jiu-jitsu, Paul's jiu-jitsu, Tony's jiu-jitsu, and that's what's really fascinating to me. That's what keeps me, you know, showing up every day. Is like, what? Not only what am I going to learn, but what am I going to learn about myself? Gravitating towards that. Why does my body feel the need to go to that move, and this move doesn't feel as comfortable? Absolutely, and that's totally fine to do. I mean, every move that Andre shows in our class, I'm like, I can see maybe I might do that, or I might just discard that. You know, it's not for everybody. But when you find that move that you're like, oh yeah, this is my jam. And then he's like, yeah, that's your jam, right? I'm like, yeah, Andre, that's it. He's like, I know that's your jam. And he knows, you know, and everyone has their own like thing
and
like that. It's cool, you know?
The coolest thing I've always found about jiu-jitsu is what you think your game is right now. You go outside and they say, like, what are you good at? You're like, bam, 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 bam. If you ask me in 2 months, I'm going to give you a totally different answer. And there are times that I've like locked in and been like, all right, this is going to be my game. I wrote it down on a piece of paper and started diagramming it. Like, this is what I'm going to do every single time. It's a bad thing and a good thing. A lot of times we don't have the discipline to stay on track, to keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over till you become a freaking expert at it. That's that one trick pony kind of thing. But that's also how the best become the best kind of. So that needs to be there a little bit, where you have the discipline to practice stuff. I can't stand in class, you teach a move, and then you're sparring and the same exact situation comes up that you just went over for the technique, and a lot of the students will just ignore it and go. And obviously it's because it's new to them. But you're not going to get better by not trying it, you know? So sometimes you have to have the discipline to make sure you try the technique, and even if you lose, get back and just keep trying it. And I've heard Hickson talk about that, having that kind of discipline to get better at technique by repeating it. At the same time, you need to be open to everything. You can't lock yourself in, and you're going to realize that every time I've ever gotten hurt, I had to take a week off from jiu-jitsu or whatever. As soon as I came back, or even if I had to fight with like an injured hand for a month or something, 2 months out, my jiu-jitsu game was entirely different than when I went into the injury or whatever. So I now realize that it's always going to progress. There's always going to be strengths and weaknesses, and I'm always going to try to push towards the weaknesses because that's what's going to get you beat. Focus on your strengths, but realize that they're going to evolve. I'm not always going to be working deep half guard. At some point, I'm going to maybe realize that there's something inefficient about it, and I'm going to start thinking, and something's going to push me towards doing a different technique, and then all of a sudden, I'm going to be trying a different type of technique. So that's what got us to the technique we're at right now. Was something gave us an itch to be like, let's try a little different from what you were doing previous. So it's the transformation from the white belt to the black belt, like in how you keep acquiring new technique. Like you said it before, you're going to keep throwing out stuff that doesn't work. There's a ton of stuff that does work that we still don't do. You just don't put it into your game, and you're like, it's great. Like you're saying, Andre, when he does it right, he's smashing people with it. Right. He's killing people with it. But sometimes it just doesn't make sense to your body. Right. Everything's cool when you're doing it slow, but the minute you add speed and you add aggression to the mix, it's going to change the factors. And you're going to start reverting back to what feels comfortable for your body. So, realizing that your jiu-jitsu game is going to change, man. And everything's going to change. Having my son change my jiu-jitsu game.
Wow, interesting.
Just from the aspect of, for a long time, I was just more tired. Didn't have a lot of time. Like, time was of the essence. So when he was a baby, there wasn't a lot of time to like get in working out on the side. There wasn't a lot of time to get in training like 4 times a week. You might only got in once or twice a week, but you got to still go ahead and your business when you get in there. Right. So everything kind of changes you. And then you start thinking, well, if I'm only going to be able to train once a week, I need to adapt to that, change how I'm fighting. It's just a constant... You're constantly analyzing, and you're constantly trying to make judgments off that assessment, and that's how your game progresses, or it falls back sometimes. If you follow weight training, it's kind of like conjugated training. Louis Simmons and West Side Crew always talk about conjugate training, which is pretty popular right now. But it just means that you have all these different facets that it takes to be elite. You have to train all of them. If you don't train one, that facet's going to fall off. If I don't train my cardio, I can have great technique. Go out to a competition, you lose because you get gassed out. Right. Vice versa. If you got lungs but you don't have the technique, somebody's going to catch you somewhere. So, and that's how your technique goes as well. You're going to have times when you're hitting technique really good. One side of the body, you're passing strong to the left side, but to the right side, your passing game's not as good. So then you have to focus and put your time into that right side. You're going to put so much time into the right side where your left side might now become your weak side. So then you got to go back to training that. So it's just constant.
It's amazing, isn't it?
And you just got to be honest with yourself, right? and have the... we always joke around about like jiu-jitsu, check your ego at the door. The same ego that you're checking at the door is the same ego that's going to get you better. You got to check it at the door because you're going to get your butt kicked.
Right. But the ego is what gets you to the doorstep.
And it keeps bringing you back. It's that ego that's like, I'm going to go kick some ass tonight.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm going to go take some names.
The ego gets you off the couch, gets you in the car.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Sport builds ego. So as much as, and we need that. We need to count on that. You need to count on the fact that like you're building something. You're getting stronger. You're getting better. Your techniques developing. Because then why would you do it if you're not getting better? Right. So it's I always say to people that don't do jiu-jitsu, like jiu-jitsu is the hardest thing that I've ever done. Football was a piece of cake. I played lacrosse for a long time. And learning lacrosse was pretty tough at first, but piece of cake compared to jiu-jitsu. It's a endlessly frustrating, tough, enjoying. It brings enjoyment. It's my happy place as much as it's my dark place. You know what I'm saying? Right. So
yeah.
And you guys know. I mean, you guys know how it is. So
yeah, no, it's amazing. I recently started teaching a little bit more.
Yeah.
Well, Andre has me teaching the beginner class, and it's interesting because initially, Paul and I, we talked about this on the podcast a while ago, and I didn't really understand. Like, we go to seminars, and and even Andre does moves, and anytime you go see a class, the instructor's doing a move, and they're showing you the move, and they're like sweating, and I'm like, what the fuck? Why is he sweating? I'm doing the technique, and I'm sweating
your balls off.
My
Yeah.
ball, I'm like, fuck, I'm just showing them technique, and because I have to do it right. I got to think about every position I'm in and show this technique, and I'm in myself. I got to show it like perfect technique.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of, and I'm like, it's
a ton of pressure.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, all these people are looking at you. I'm just like, okay, I don't want to fuck up. I want to do the right technique. I don't want to have the wrong technique or show something wrong. And so I'm really aware of and I'm like, I'm breathing heavy. I showed 3 techniques. I'm like, whew, okay,
Yeah.
all right, let's go. I was like, holy shit, I'm sweating during class.
Right.
And I never, I always looked at like Eddie Bravo. I'm like, guy's fucking sweating. I'm like,
Yeah.
he's fucking not doing anything. What's he doing? No, he's fucking working.
And it's also
incredible.
You're disrupting your own breathing too because you're talking.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
You know what I
also
mean?
true.
So you're not
Yeah.
breathing correctly.
Yeah.
Like you normally would be if you were just like kept your mouth shut and
Right, just do
started
the technique.
repping.
Right. Yeah,
So
that's
that-
true.
yeah.
It's fun. I'm enjoying it, and I was talking to Paul earlier, and I'm just like, it's really allowing me to think about every, where my hand is, where this is,
Yeah.
and then being able to explain that to all different body types. We've got some big guys in the beginners class, some big white belts, and I'm just like trying to dissect their game. Like, okay, well, how's that feel? And then I'll do it on them. And these guys are like, twice my size, and I have to do it on them. It's showing this is how it should feel. Like when I pull you on top of me, I should have your weight on me. We were doing sweeps the other day, so I'm just and then swing that leg out, for the pendulum and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Teaching's the key, man. Teaching humbles you big time.
Yeah.
Because you realize you don't know what you think you know.
Yeah.
And all the ways that you've been doing it might not be the most technical way. So that's another thing is like you're saying, you're trying to adapt a technique that you know in your head, but you need to teach it for the way that everybody can do it, regardless of body type and all that kind of stuff. And I think, I know with my guys, I'm really honest and open with them about, I am definitely still in this learning process with you.
That's cool, man. I would not want to learn from somebody who just was like, I know it all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd be like,
Well, even Junior,
do you though?
Junior shows
exactly. Whoever would say that I'd be like, I
humbleness,
think I need to find a new gym.
I think all the Gracies, they've probably forgotten more jiu-jitsu techniques than we could ever know, right?
How about it?
And I still see that humbleness in Junior and talking about technique and being open to different techniques. So if he's open to it, then I'm definitely still open to it. So that's a big thing is I let the guys know like I'm still learning and I like taking their advice because we're going to learn something. Their mistakes are sometimes really cool techniques, and just kind of keeping it open like that and allowing everybody to keep growing. I think sometimes when you get to like being a black belt, it can get tough to keep your progress going. Or if you're in a role as a teacher, to keep your progress going. The best position in sports or jiu-jitsu is going to be where you have 3 different people: a person that's not as good as you, a person that's like your equal, your peer, and then a person that's better than you. That person that's not as good, that's the person that you're going to get to practice your technique on. You're going to get to try stuff that you normally wouldn't try.
Offensive.
You can push it. You'll let them pass your guard. Let them get positions on you and work your defense. The person that's your peer it's a dogfight, all out battle. They get you, you get them. It's really where you're building your fighting spirit. Because there's times when you're winning and you're putting it on, and there's times when you're losing. The person that's way better than you, that's where you're building like your humility, because you're usually just getting your ass whooped, right? And you're building a lot of defense. You're trying to learn how to relax while getting your butt kicked. And your wins are, did I make it through the match without getting tapped? So when you have all three of those levels, you're going to develop. You're going to get better. But as you start getting up to a higher level, you might not have those guys that are way better than you. You might not have a lot of opportunities to fight peers. And that can mess with your jiu-jitsu style if you're always teaching white belts or just even beginners. You're not getting that same experience. You're not getting that, like we talked about, that conjugated experience of making sure that you're getting pushed, that you have somebody that's better than you, that's putting you in bad situations. So trying to find that balance can be tough. Thankfully for me, over at Carlson's, you got 50 million students. Over at Chicago MMA, between Micho, who's like got his black belt in like 3 weeks, and then Alex, who's just like, just ridiculous. That right there, and the guys coming up, purple and brown belts, that the guys that have just got their purples and browns, that if I'm not, on my toes, they will catch me in a quick second. There is no doubt about it. So it's great that we have, that I'm able to get this, all three levels of experience and so forth. But it's important, man. If you're not getting that, you can be slipping a little bit, So, you just gotta. You're always adjusting, and you're always analyzing and making sure that you're
for sure.
You're
And it's awesome that you're exposed to such a big part of the community. I mean, 3 different schools at a minimum, And I think that's important too. Some people get caught in their own little gym, which is in its own little world, which has its own little rule set, and it's like that's how your jiu-jitsu is going to be too.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, if you're closed off to the community, your jiu-jitsu is going to be closed off. It's going to reflect it. Exactly.
I'd say, like being older and coming from that older generation where there wasn't a lot of sharing information between schools. That's not something that I necessarily think was a bad thing. It's kind of like you need to be either one or the other. Either it needs to be you're at your own school and you carry your flag colors. You don't share your technique. I mean, that would keep it really competitive. You go to Chicago Open and you see, a Lions fighting Carlson Gracie. They're going blood at each other. That'd be kind of cool. But now we're at the stage where everybody kind of trains with each other, and there's a lot of sharing of information and so forth. So with that kind of being the way things are, we still need to kind of keep the competitive nature of the jiu-jitsu. We still need, and I think that's still there, but it's I can see where some people, a lot of the older generation guys don't like the fact that they call you a creonche and all that kind of stuff if you go to other academies and all that. So I'm like the major creonche.
A lot of those guys are dead though.
Not yet. Not yet. But
I've been in jiu-jitsu a little while now, and I've seen, I've been in a lot of gyms just, through the podcast and such. And I've really never, I don't think it's more of a secret technique thing, because I think all the techniques are out there. I think everyone knows what's going on.
Back in the day, this was before the
internet.
internet.
I understand that. But now I think the whole, the thing with the gym and people who, don't want, cross training or anything like that, or just don't allow, I think it's more of a, just more of a safety thing than anything. Maybe they're just like Luis Claudio mentioned to us, saying that, so we came to his gym during open mat and broke someone off. Well, okay, that's understandable. You're a little more cautious about who's coming in your gym, and they might look all nice and everyone's smiling. Let's roll light, and then all of a sudden that guy,
crazy, absolutely.
They go fucking nuts.
Then there's other gyms that will allow visitors, but like one of your trusted students better be vouching for him.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
hey, this is a good friend of mine. He wants to
So
train.
I think it's more that is what's going on nowadays. Is like people are like more standard, like who's this guy coming in? We don't really know him. How's he gonna roll? How's he gonna treat our? Because remember, each student, that's money, right?
Absolutely.
So you don't want some guy coming in and breaking off one of your students, and now you're out, because he's
Right.
gone for 6 months or whatever. So I think it's more of a caution than that than showing technique.
I think you're 100% right. And if anyone out there is thinking like we have secret jujitsu that we don't want anyone else to see or delusional.
But back
you
in
know
the
what I
day,
mean?
like it was.
Back in the day,
for
was
sure.
for
It
sure.
was very
It would-
stylistic, you know.
very-
it would
phallic,
still be like that
Yeah.
today if it wasn't for YouTube and the internet.
Exactly.
I guarantee
Yeah,
you schools
absolutely.
would be like, no, my stuff is better. Don't
Yeah.
show that to any, you know.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
now
I mean-
the cat's out of the bag, so they're like, yeah, fuck it, come in.
Yeah,
you know?
That's a good point, yeah.
But I think it's just a matter of being cautious of who you let in your gym. You don't want any students getting injured because you just don't know who these people are. you
Right.
know? Just like strangers in your house. It's like,
It kind of changed the nature of the academies a little bit, though. I know Carlson's. There was a lot of. Not only was like their secret technique from academy to another academy, but just within the within the academy, we were teammates, but we also looked at each other like opponents.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you had good technique, you might show it to one other guy or whatever, but you weren't like trying to like bless the whole class with it.
I see.
Like, it was, I mean, Andre, me and Maneko used to kill each other. Just go at it like cats and dogs trying to rip each other's face off. And then right after we shake hands, hug and everything. But Otto Clark, same thing. When it was time to spar, guys would like go walk away, go down to like the locker room and stuff because you were like getting psyched up to come back up to basically have a tournament.
No
it was, and I like that. Like
Yeah.
it was real deal, you know.
Yeah.
So obviously now when you have like open mats where you got guys coming from like different academies and stuff, and this kind of plays back into even like the dilemma sometimes of like being more experienced is you don't want to be that asshole that goes all competitive fast and crazy, crushing dudes and going hard. But what if that's what you're trying to train? Like, what if you're trying to train competition stuff or get yourself competition ready, and you have these new guys coming in? Now it's a great opportunity for you to work on your technique versus like a brand new opponent, a person that you don't know, and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, you got to hold back because you don't want to be that guy. Right. So you have these very few opportunities to really unleash and develop that kind of game. The same kind of game that I was developing with Andre that I knew I could depend on. And if I knew I was going to class, I'd be like, oh shit. And as soon as we go to open mat, it's going to be war. In fact, this is kind of bad, but I used to go to class just for the open mat. Like I knew that's what it was all about for me. I wanted to spar for an hour, 2 hours. And it was just at that level. And since then, it's not the same thing. It's not as competitive. So for me, I'm constantly kind of trying to find that same edge. Where do I get that edge? Unless I have unless there's another guy, another high level guy that I can fight and we can, kind of shake hands and be like, hey, can we really kick each other's ass right now? You know what I'm saying? Like right now it's normally, hey, let's slap and bump and kind of go easy and kind of feel it out. But I don't want to ever lose the sense of what me and Andre had and all the guys at Carlson had where we were trying to kill each other. That's how we got here.
That is.
So
but the business has changed.
The business has changed.
The
business has changed. Yeah.
Those gyms are a dying breed.
And who you can, your gym and your teammates, and who you can go really hard with, and there's certain guys you can and can't, and who the competitors are, and it's like, it's an unspoken thing sometimes, but sometimes it's a spoken thing. It's like, hey man, like I'm going to go really hard, we got a guy, John, at our gym. He's a steamroller. Yeah. He will fucking straight up steamroll you. And you're like, I used to hate rolling with him. You know, I was just like, oh, God damn it. I just want to spar, but this is like straight up like comp to the death, But now I'm just kind of used to it and I'm grateful for it,
Yeah,
Now
exactly.
it's like, dude, if I could survive John, I'm pretty goddamn confident I could, go. And we're at the point where I'm trying to give him the best possible. He's better than me, and he had the Chicago Open coming up, and we were at an open mat, and he's like, Paul, you want to go next? And his cardio is ridiculous. I go, yeah, John, I'm taking next round off because I want to give you the best round I can. You know what I mean? And he kept rolling. You know what I mean? So I came in fresh at him, and it's just one of those things where it's like, I'm going to give you the best possible look I could give you. And that involves me taking 7 minutes off. You know what I mean? And you keep rolling. Right. You know what I mean? But that's the type of thing. He knows he could face crank me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He knows I'm going to face crank him. You know what I mean? Like, you can't do that to everybody in the gym. But, like, there's certain guys that it's like, hey, this is what you're going to see at comp. So this is what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So don't think that it hasn't died.
No, I know it hasn't died.
There's still dudes out there killing each other. Yeah.
So, and I know.
But you know who the guys are just coming in for family, and they're just coming in to get a good workout.
Right.
And there's no reason, you just take that round and you do your thing, and everyone's cool.
Yeah.
I let them know, like, just like I tell the kids in the class, this is jiu-jitsu, it's not ballet class. I don't ever want you to get the mistake that we're not playing like a game of death right now. I'm putting chokes on you that if I don't let go, I can kill you. Right. I'm putting submissions on you that are going to break your bones if I ignore you tapping and stuff like that. So, and I don't know if that's like the, playing football and stuff that kind of like it has to, you kind of want to keep that bit of toughness in it because that's the reality of it.
It is. It's the reality.
You look at guys like Paul Harris that's going to tear your limb off if he gets the position on you, and in those kind of situations, that's when you realize, oh, it's not a little sport. You know what I'm saying? When
that's a mental disorder, I think. There's something else going on there.
Is it any different than the linebacker that hits hard every single time? Like, there's only just one speed, hit hard.
Or after the QB throws the ball and he's freaking smashing them anyway.
Yeah. That's a little more like what it's like.
That's what it's more like.
Late hits.
Late hits.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like late hits.
Right. It's like late hits. Right. Oops, sorry.
Whoops. Oh.
I couldn't stop my momentum.
Yeah. Sorry, it's not going to put my fucking leg back together.
Late hits are... This is I'm going to get me in trouble. But late hits are only ineffective if the quarterback's still in the game. All right.
Oh, man.
So back in the day, if you had the opportunity for the late hit, your defensive coordinator would be like, you better take him out the game.
Yes.
If we're gonna have a penalty and all that kind of stuff, then he better be out the game. But yeah, now you gotta be all PC. so but I get it. With my son, I don't want to teach him to. I'm always yelling at the kids, don't be aggressive, don't fight with emotion. So I definitely understand that you can't have all-out UFC battles in your gym every single day. Plus, you're trying to build a business,
right? And
you're trying to take a lot of people that aren't doing this for that reason, and trying to make sure they keep returning and helping you pay the bills. So
yeah,
I mean, and another thing is different because like if you wanted to train jiu-jitsu back in the day, there was like 2 gyms to choose from.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And both of them were savage. Right. So it's like I either want to do this or I don't. Now there's 30 gyms in the area where it's like if someone's playing too rough,
they'll go somewhere else.
Yep. And then all of a sudden you're like, what am I doing wrong? They have 200 students. I have 6.
Yeah.
My 6 are really tough. But I can't feed myself anymore,
That's true.
Yeah, that's always the crux of the whole situation. But what do you do? Do you even with like my gym, do I put my focus in my gym into being the gym that I want, which is like, hardcore, get after it? Or do you build a gym that caters to a lot of, your mom and pops and just kind of caters to everybody, and that way you can pay the bill.
It's just a choice
Do
of
you
how
stay
you
to
want
your
to live,
core,
man.
or do you
whatever
you know?
makes you happy? That's why I say you just gotta do whatever makes you happy.
That's the beauty of everything, just finding that balance. You know what I mean? I know Mineko wants nothing more than to create a world champion. Like that is like he would rather do that than eat, probably.
No
you
doubt.
know?
Yeah.
But
I'm with him on that.
you know, but then the other part of it is like, hey, how about like a friendly atmosphere and a cool gym and a place to come every day, and let's listen to Brazilian reggae and roll. Like that's right.
You got it's tough balance. It's
but you get sick of any one thing. You know what I mean? Just like let's have a balance, right?
And I think part of it is I'm not speaking for Andre, but you're looking at it like, well, this is what it took for me to get to this point. This is what it took for me to get here. So I don't want to water it down and give you a product that's not as adequate as the product that got me to this level.
Exactly.
And that's going on in every sport. That's that discussion. And I don't know if there's a right answer to that. So, we're still trying to figure that one out. So,
what about self-defense? I mean, are you teaching that a lot?
Yeah.
Or because I mean, jiu-jitsu is almost at the point where it's just recognized. People are seeing clips on Instagram and YouTube, and they walk in, and that's what they want. And then
What do you mean, like the fancy stuff? What do you mean, like? What
I
they
mean,
want?
just straight up matches. They're seeing it, and they're like, "Hey, I want to learn how to roll on the ground like that." But where other
without
people
strikes, without like the self-defense aspect.
where other people come in and they're like, well, how do I defend myself? And like, if someone gets me in a headlock, how do I get out of that? Like, are you seeing less and less of that, and people are more familiar with what the sport is, and they're looking for the sport side of it? Just first day walking in the door?
I still think we're at the point where most people coming in the door still don't know exactly what they're really getting into, in a sense. But so from that standpoint, I still think there's opportunity to teach both self-defense and sport technique. A lot of times the sport technique is way too over their head when they first come in. Doing a berimbolo, like what the hell? But you understand how to block a punch, go to a clinch, and work a takedown. I can show you a lot of different aspects of grappling off of self-defense flow.
Right.
So I still think there's aspects of doing that. I know if I'll be teaching class and I don't know, something will just kind of get me, and I'll be like, let me see. I'll just grab a guy and be like, block a punch, and I'll throw a punch at him real quick. If they don't know how to block the punch, I didn't make it the entire class's fault that he couldn't block a punch. So we all have to learn how to block a punch. And I'll say to him, like, if we don't know that stuff, then what are we really doing? If we're just in here to practice how to do crazy flips and stuff with the gi on, all that kind of that's fine and good. But let's really be careful about what we are. We're martial artists. Martial arts being the key here. We should know how to defend ourselves. That's what this sport's kind of all about. And I don't want a student going out there teaching somebody else and they don't know what self-defense is. And they're going to sell somebody information that could potentially get them hurt. Because they're going to be like, hey, man, you get in a fight, try to drop the guard and then put them in an ankle lock or something, right? If that's what they're selling and you're letting them sell that, then it's your fault as the teacher for not being like, hey, that ain't the way it's going to go down. Right. It might go down like that in the competition, but by the time you're a purple belt, I think you should have an understanding and be able to kind of distinguish between sport techniques and self-defense techniques. And unfortunately, right now, what you see is you might do your self-defense techniques like up to like a blue belt level, but then after that, it just drops off. You don't really do it. You focus more on the sport stuff. I say you kind of keep it, you keep the self-defense stuff in there, practice combat jiu-jitsu. That's as self-defense-ish as it can come from stand-up positions. You need to know how to get to a clinch from a person trying to take swings at you, how to get inside on them, how to get to a grappling situation, how not to get hit. how to apply your judo, your takedown, your wrestling takedowns to a person that's trying to punch you. So all that stuff's critically important, and I think you're doing that stuff in your warm-ups, even if you're not doing an actual technique in the sparring of the class. Every warm-up, you should still kind of be working on. You should be working on your movements from a self-defense kind of standpoint. You know, just to kind of always keep that at the forefront a little bit.
So, are you teaching them like jab cross stuff like that, or step and slide, footwork?
It's mostly footwork. I would say most people are going to be taking Muay Thai class, so that's going to take care of your striking. It's going to be more how do you defend against a strike when it's not a competition where you and I are boxing each other. Right, it's more a situation. I'm with my girlfriend. You came up to me in the bar and started talking
big
smack.
Overhand right.
Yeah, exactly. How do I create the situation of a big overhand right? Am I standing in a way that I'm going to get punched right in my face? Right. Am I standing in a way? Most people get in these fighting situations, and if you come and you start talking smack to me, I'm going to be like I do jiu-jitsu. I'm tough. I'm going to cross my arms. I'm going to stand on my feet even. And if you pounce at me, you're going to get the first jump on me. Right. Versus being in a position where I'm kind of standing with one foot in front of the other. I got my hands up in front of me so that you can't punch straight down the line. Right. I'm kind of dictating the fact that you'll have to punch around, do a roundhouse punch, which is perfect for me to get into my clinch. All that kind of stuff. So we talk about it, and we'll practice it in our warm-ups. And you don't have to get too deep into it, because at the end of the day, after that person has thrown the punch and you got to your clinch, you're going to go right back to your jiu-jitsu work. Of course, right. You're now trying to, but you have to also understand how to add strikes to get your techniques. And I think that's where a lot of self-defense technique gets lost. And if I'm talking about self-defense technique, kind of think of like Steven Seagal type stuff. He's catching a punch and he's making a guy do a flip off a punch and all that kind of stuff. And
it's real.
Yeah, and people are like, well, it's not real because you need like a unexperienced combatant that's coming at you full speed and all that kind of stuff. The techniques are more effective if you add strikes to them. No different than your grappling would be more effective if you added little strikes, knees, stomps, all that kind of stuff to it. So, in some of the self-defense techniques, they don't work by themselves because nobody just stands there and watch you put a move on their wrist and just they're going to try to defend and get out of there, all that kind of stuff. But if you put those moves on and you're adding strikes in with those moves, then they do become a little bit more effective. Now you add it into your jiu-jitsu and being close and not expecting the fight to be over just because you hit the person. Fight's not over. You're going to be able to kind of flow more, go with the situation more, control the person more, put the person where you want to put them, finish with strikes, and you don't have to be a good striker. So we kind of get into that on the self-defense side of it. We don't get too crazy with all the different variations of all the different techniques. Just so there's not too much overload between your jiu-jitsu, sport jiu-jitsu, and the self-defense. The self-defense stuff doesn't need to be too fancy.
I just wonder where did that all come from? Like, where did that stem from? That that cinematography that movies do, where and they still do it to this day, even though we know it's all like. That's not real. Like, you're not going to just hit the guy one time, he's going to fall down.
Bruce Lee, man. Bruce Lee take out 50 people with 50 kicks.
Is that where it all came from? Like, or it had to been before Bruce.
Well, no, it was definitely part of
he popularized that whole movement, but it just seems so weird.
Kung Fu flicks, that was just
right?
That
They're
was
just
part of it. Yeah, you get
where just
one punch and the guy's gone off the
kick
screen.
to the head, and this guy's gone, and the guy falls down, and it just seems so. I mean, Joe Rogan always posts those videos on Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't believe this is real, but it's so interesting.
It's just movies too, man. Everything is just over the top. It's like even a car chase in a movie. You're like, oh my God, come on!
Yeah,
that's not what a real car chase looks like.
Right.
I've watched Cops.
Right.
That's not it.
Don't get me started on the reverse triangle in Black Panther. Horrible
I haven't seen
it yet.
Yeah, he puts a reverse triangle on, and I'm giving away the plot, but whatever. He puts a reverse triangle on, and it's like, all right, I get it that you guys probably worked with some like stunt actor or whatever that's choreographed your fight scenes.
Keegan Machado.
But you can do better.
Right,
and if
right.
it was Keegan, maybe you didn't sit in the editing room afterwards or whatever. But that shit wasn't tight. Like, it was loose. It was horrible. So I'm sitting there, I'm looking at it, and I was like pissed off. I was like, they could have done way better on that one.
Yeah.
Tighten it up, grab your ankle, man. But
yeah, some of those. Yeah, I remember back in the day because I used to do Jeet Kune Do and Brandon Lee. You know, when he came out with his movies, you know, man, I was like, this is the first time I got to see like Bruce's stuff, like that I was learning in film. You know, Rapid Fire, that was an awesome flick, you know? And I was like, wow, fucking Jiching Choi, it actually works. He's doing it in the film, and he's doing all his Paksal Lopsaus in the film, and I'm like, that's so cool. It could really work. That's how my mind was like, because I didn't know.
You don't know any different.
This is early 90s, you know?
Yeah.
And this is, you know, before the jiu-jitsu, and then I'm like, oh, it must be real, right? He's doing it in the film, so I'm all excited, and, you know, no, it's not going to happen like that. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be. You're not going to hit the guy with a back fist and he's just going to fall down.
Yeah,
it's never going to happen. Well, it's never going to happen unless he wasn't paying attention. But it's never going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, what if they came out with an action movie that was jiu-jitsu based? You know, they'd have the funkiest shit jiu-jitsu has to offer.
Flying,
you know, flying triangles and
didn't they do it with John Wick? Didn't they do some jiu-jitsu
like that?
in it? Where there was like, but he's like shooting people when they're in triangles or something like crazy.
Super
like that.
elaborate sweeps and stuff like that. It's never going to be like 5 minutes of fighting from full guard. You know what I mean?
You know, and that's why movies are movies, because you're going to do 50 million moves and you're like, you know, they do all this stuff and the guy's not even tired afterwards.
Right.
Whereas real fighting is all the energies, especially if it's a real fight, like I'm really trying to kick your ass, you're trying to kick my ass. In 1 minute, the energy's gone.
Yeah.
The energy's zapped out, and it turns into the grinding wrestling match. So I don't know how well that's ever going to translate over to the screen, but that's the reality of fights, you know, and you guys know that. So people always talk, you know, about Bruce Lee being the greatest, and I'm like, greatest actor? I mean, I never seen Bruce in a real fight. So I can't really say if he'd win the fight. He's ridiculously unique with his skills, his speed, all that kind of stuff. Power, I don't know, because I don't know if I never really seen him hit anybody to know like the power is enough to really not. He can hit him fast, and fast does translate into power on some level. But how much should he weigh? Like
130.
So, you know, I don't know, but he's still an actor. So at the end of the day, like kung fu movies, all that kind of stuff, even Steven Seagal, they're all actors, man. And you know, I don't know if we'll ever really see a good translation of jiu-jitsu on film. That's probably going to satisfy the jiu-jitsu guy, just because we'll know like it's not going to be as real. You know, it's hard. It's going to be hard to make it look realistic, man.
It would. I mean, unless they came out with a movie, you know, that was about the sport. You know, about
which I would like to see.
That's what I would like to see as well.
I think.
You know what I mean? Like take us back to what was that one with Julia Roberts' brother back in the 90s about the Taekwondo. You know what I'm talking about?
What do you call it?
Fuck, I can't remember.
The comedy movie?
No.
Okay,
The one where he's fighting Julia Roberts' brother is in it with the Korean. You know what I'm talking about? The best of the best.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
it. The best of the best. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They need to come out with a film like that for jiu-jitsu instead of being the Taekwondo where it's Korea versus USA. The best of best, like for jiu-jitsu, like film
about
that tournament, like that leading up to that tournament. You got your star, whoever is Low or Buchecha or whomever,
right?
And you got that, and then they're going to Brazil to fight someone out there. Like that would be like interesting.
That'd be really cool. And that would show the
real moves.
Yeah.
You know, Kyotera style, you know, that fucking super technical.
A mesh of Best in the Best and Vision Quest.
Yes,
exactly.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's what we
one
need.
of my favorite movies.
Vision Quest. I know. It's so good.
I
wasn't even like, I'm never like a wrestler, but that movie
it
gets me pumped.
Yeah.
Pumped.
They'll get a movie about, I think Hickson had said he was going to they were going to do like a movie about him, and then maybe Carlson Sr. potentially had talked with somebody. So I think before long, the Gracie family in and of itself that's a movie opportunity right there.
Of course. Yeah. But it would have to be a miniseries.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean?
That's true, yeah.
It would have to be. I mean, how you put that in 2 hours? There's no
That's
fucking
true.
way.
And then it's
With all the characters,
to show like how it went from in how many generations? Is it 3-4 generations to where it is now and UFC, Dana White, all that. That's it's a story that I think you don't have to like martial arts to be fascinated by it. So
that could be its own Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. I don't see why not.
I'd watch the hell out
so
of that.
many characters. Think about the characters now. Drysdale's doing that movie called Closed Guard. Have you seen this yet? Well, I mean, I follow it on Instagram, and we both, Paul and I, listened to that podcast when he was on
Grappling Central
podcast, and wow, this film sounds fucking amazing. Nice. Like, it's the history of jiu-jitsu, not the history of Gracie jiu-jitsu, just the history of jiu-jitsu, the part that you don't even know, like red belts you've never even heard of.
Yeah.
Being out there.
That's what's
up.
up.
And he's really bringing it. Like, he's going deep in there.
Deep.
He is.
And there's a lot of misconceptions.
misconceptions.
People are going to be a little bit upset with this film, but we're not being biased. We're just, this is
the history
we're
of jiu-jitsu.
reporting the truth.
Yeah.
You know.
And he's
so knowledgeable.
Yeah, very, very not. That, if you want to listen to a podcast, that Grappling Central podcast with Robert Drysdale, wow, about his movie Closed Guard, it's eye-opening. You're like,
when's it coming out?
So he's got like, 20 gigs or some crazy number of film footage that they're now starting to edit.
Gotcha.
To bring it down. It's a documentary, so it's going to be, I just think, about an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe.
Right.
So he's got a lot of stuff to work on,
good.
but
They have an
follow it on Instagram. It's
Instagram page. I think they have Closed Guard the movie or Closed Guard the film.
Something like that.
There's updates on when it's coming out and stuff like that.
Fascinating.
And, the guy from ACB is the one who financed the film.
Financed it.
Nice.
Yeah. It's I'm excited to see that one. That's going to be a good one. But again, you know, the miniseries with all the characters, that would be something, because you got the Henzo Gracie, you know, you got all those characters that could be
absolutely.
You could see like real actors like portraying them.
Right.
You know,
Got to put a ton of money behind that. Though.
But HBO, Netflix, they got money.
IBJJF throw in on that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't know if they'll do anything.
Why not?
I don't know.
They've got millions.
Then it'd be 100% biased. I don't want it to be biased. I like to just show this characters. Let's get into like the Valley Tudo days and like back in the day, like the gym raids and all that fun. Like,
that's
you can build it all up.
That's the,
I mean,
that's the good stuff. Is the gym raids and all that kind of stuff.
That's like a whole
generation
guys
and all that.
Yeah. Whole generation of the younger generation now who would watch that series or get involved and get them excited about jiu-jitsu. It's worth pumping in, you know, 10 million.
It's worth the investment.
It's worth the investment for anybody, you know, whether it be the IBJJF, you know, or whomever, you know what I mean? But I think it should be done. Even though, I mean, we got football movies, we got basketball movies. What the fuck?
I don't think anyone's going to disagree with you, dude.
I know that.
Because they started pushing out those like weak ass MMA movies.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just a matter of time.
So
man. They'd open the gate though. They'd open the gate.
They're horrible though. Did you see that one? Was it like Fightland with the girls, Fight Valley or something like that?
No.
Oh my God, Paul. It's so bad. It's almost unwatchable for the only fact is you're like, I can't believe this is a real fucking movie.
A real movie.
It was with what's all the women are in it.
All the
Cyborg
UFC
was in it.
women,
like four. Oh my God.
Oh, and Gina Carano.
No, I don't think she's in that one. No, she's like,
the first attempts are going to be ugly. But that's the thing is they don't need to make a movie. They don't need to make this like fictitious story about.
No, they don't need to.
Just
tell the real story.
The real story.
Follow the real story.
That's amazing as it is.
Kind of like a Narcos. Like the initial Narcos was. That's all real. You know, it's hard for me to watch.
Warrior was pretty good.
Yeah, Warrior was pretty good.
It was pretty good, but it's hard to, you know, it's like, oh, this guy comes back from the Marines and he's addicted to pills, and then all of a sudden he cleans his act up and knocks some guy out in the gym, and next thing you know he's fighting in the cage for $1 million. It's like that's not how it goes.
You got to show the grind. You got to show like where it started.
That's what's so great about these binge watching miniseries. You know, that's what's so great about, like, they put the whole season out.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah,
Amazon, Netflix, boom, 10 episodes. Go at it, and then we'll give you the next season. You know, 6 months from now.
Right.
Fucking
That'd be
me
dope.
involved.
That'd be
I
dope.
gotta talk
Let's
to
just do
somebody.
like
Get
a
involved,
reality
dude.
series.
Zito,
I know.
start crowdfunding for this,
Yeah, you know, it's not a bad
and then
idea.
hire a director.
I gotta hire a director. I've worked with some directors in the past, some film directors. Yeah, Terry Green, he's got some good films. I wonder if he'd be interested in that.
You know,
I don't know,
it's-
man. I'm spinning the wheels right now. I'm like, he's won some shit, so maybe I should give him a call, see what he'd be interested in.
Right.
It's got to fit the director, you know.
Yeah, you
director,
could definitely, you
it's
know,
gotta
like
really
do.
fit.
You have to have the audience for it too.
I think the audience is there. I just think it's just
yeah.
getting people to tell the story. You know, like we all know, like everyone kind of knows the story, like from what everyone says.
many-
But the actual, document where the Gracies aren't going to be like suing you, you know
Right,
what I mean?
right.
because of because they're going to want a piece of it, unless you don't call it the Great, because you can't. They probably won't even be able to let them use the name. There's no fucking way. So you got to come up with another
Or
badass
get on
name,
'em.
Yeah.
for for the family. You know what I mean?
Right.
What's the name
What
going to
would
be?
it be? What would it be?
It's got to be cool, you know.
Yeah.
Like, because like a lot of the mob movies are based on actual mob people, but they change the name.
Change the name, yeah.
You know, so it's like, okay, now I come up with a whole different type.
Well,
of,
how many jiu-jitsu practitioners do you think there are?
in the world?
Yeah.
I don't know, a couple 100,000.
You don't think it's at 1 million?
Enough to make a dent. I think enough to make a
I
financial
think it's at a
dent.
million.
I don't know. Definitely not English. All English speaking.
Million? I don't know.
Not even. You don't think?
I don't know. I would. It'd
You'd
be
never.
hard.
You'd never recoup your money then.
It'd be hard. Well, I don't think it's like that. I don't think it'd be like that. I mean, yeah, I don't think only jiu-jitsu people would watch
Yeah,
it.
you can
I think
make a movie right now
The
about-
story would be a good story.
You'd have to be a good
regardless.
story, too.
It's a
Okay.
good story no matter what.
Yeah.
Just about coming up with the way they did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Doing what they did to create what they did. I think that's amazing. Fuck.
There's a story just in the fact of, like, I don't know if it's 1 million people or however many people, you, me, all these quote unquote normal people that go put pajamas on, go into these like private little fight clubs on a weekly basis, beat the crap out of each other, and then kind of mingle back into the real world. Like, like it's all normal. That in itself is a movie. Now, I mean, every sport or niche sport kind of has that culture, like skaters or surfers and stuff. But jiu-jitsu's gotten to the point where it has its own niche, its own look, its own feel. And there's a story there. I think Stuart Cooper does a lot of good little short stories,
Yeah,
kind
that's
of,
awesome.
highlighting everybody's little personal path that we're taking to get to the mats. And then when we leave the mats, like we go on those mats and for however long it is, like time stands still. There could be bombs going off outside the academy. You don't even know. And like we treat the academy like it's a stadium. You know what I'm saying? Like this
Like
little
church.
little 200 square foot mat is like what it's all about, which is kind of crazy. I remember when I was playing football, there'd be times I was like trying to like rationalize it to myself. Like, man, I'm falling in love with this jiu-jitsu thing, but I should really be paying attention to the football thing. And I might take it to the NFL or whatever. Play in front of 100,000 people. Jiu-jitsu, you might spar in front of like 110 people, or 10 people, whatever. But I would like go back and forth between, is it kind of big enough? Does it have enough like punch to it, kind of compared to football? And it just kept growing. It kept growing. It kept growing. And even when it was, even while it was something that like almost nobody else had heard of, it still kept me, man. I still kept coming back to it. I still kept realizing that it's just a matter of time before this thing's going to blow up, before it's going to be as big as any other sport out there. And this was, I was thinking all this stuff before the internet even really got big and fit YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So now that you have you have all these social media outlets to push jiu-jitsu to people that never seen it before, it's just going to keep growing.
Right.
And consistently, looking for, I train a lot of kids and stuff, and it's not the kids that play football, the kids that play baseball or soccer or whatever. It's all the other kids, the 90 other % of kids that don't play those three major sports. Every time they have one more outlet that's going to get them off the streets, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And now you see this, jiu-jitsu is a great outlet for a lot of those non-athletes or the kids not playing the big sports. And it's a fantastic outlet for females. So, you know, it's win-win. It's getting bigger and bigger, and it's gonna. I foresee it getting. It'll probably make it to the Olympics. You know, it'll probably get there.
We hear like 2024 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be a little bit, but yeah, we hear it's gonna get there.
You know, wrestling's doing its thing. Wrestling's getting back its swing a little bit. So I see jiu-jitsu kind of doing its thing. Yeah, it's.
I agree, and I think jiu-jitsu. I mean, the people I've met in jiu-jitsu are fucking computer nerds like me. You know, they're just like everyone's
smart
like,
community.
It's smart community. Like everyone's like
not a
what do you
meathead
I'm in
community,
technology.
yeah.
Yeah, there's not a lot of meatheads. You know, there's like guys coming in there just like nurses and lawyers and like it's interesting. It's like
all walks of life.
It's going to work for that reason because
they're not the jock from high school.
Exactly.
That's
all
not
those
who's coming
nerds
in.
kind of have money to reinvest back into it.
Yeah.
Versus the meatheads, it's not probably going to happen, right? So, it's kind of a good thing. Which Stuart Cooper is a jiu-jitsu aficionado that invests back in it and puts out these great films for everybody else to enjoy. So I think you're going to see a lot of that. I think a lot of what you guys are doing here. You see a lot of self-produced works to try to spread the love of jiu-jitsu, man. Right. You know, it goes beyond just trying to build a business for yourself. I think everybody's doing it for a genuine reason of trying to educate people on what they don't know. Like, this is one of the greatest things that you're not doing.
Right.
People talk about losing weight and getting in shape and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, do jiu-jitsu. End of story. You want to get in shape, do go do 3 days of jiu-jitsu a week and tell me you're not losing weight. You know?
Right, exactly.
I mean, and people are so unhappy. You know what I mean? Like, that's the main reason I jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Keep my mind right. You know, the friendships and the competitions and the podcast, and that's all cool. That's all just a byproduct of training. You know, I could take it or leave it, but the training room is just getting in there and doing hard rounds. That's the most important thing.
Psychological effect of that. Yeah.
Yes. The psychological effect of that. And you just walk out of there and it affects the rest of your life. Like the rest of your week, the rest of your month, you know, like if you stay consistent with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
go ahead.
It's so true because just leaving after a hard session is like nothing bothers you. Nothing fucking bothers you. Like I'm like on cloud nine.
Yeah, I have like the craziest schedule. I get out of, I'll do like privates during the day or whatever. Then I do jiu-jitsu. Like I'll start lifting 6:30, 7 o'clock. I'll work out, go to jiu-jitsu class at 8 o'clock, get out of there at around like 10 o'clock. By the time I come out at 10 o'clock, everything's closed. Starving, right? So now I got to go try to find something to eat. By the time I get home, it's 11 o'clock. By the time I eat the food, whatever, we're probably around like midnight. I need my time to wind down. So now we're like at 1 o'clock, right?
Right.
1 o'clock. I wake up at 5 o'clock to go do 6:30 jiu-jitsu session, spar with the guy for an hour.
Yeah. 4 hours of sleep is not enough for guys to train.
But the weird thing is, like, I'll be looking forward. I'll be walking home at 11 o'clock, 11:15, walking into the house, and I'll be thinking about the next session, like in 4 or 5 hours. And I'm ignoring all the fact that I'm tired. I'm just thinking about what technique I'm going to work on or the angle I'm going to try to, like, I just look at it like I have this next opportunity to get better. That's kind of always been my little personal selfish secret with jiu-jitsu is no matter who I'm sparring with, no matter what role it is, if I'm giving you a private, I'm getting better.
Right.
Even though like I'm teaching you and all that kind of stuff, and I've just always found that I'm going to get better irregardless of who I'm sparring, whether it's a little kid to, somebody that's really tough and going right at me. But every opportunity to do jiu-jitsu is an opportunity to get better. Yeah. So if you have this other body that's willing to kind of do this tango with you, there's nothing more special than that in a way. We can study and learn at home and watch YouTube and, you can have your grappling dummies and stuff like that, but it's never going to match having another human being that's either going to beat you up or you're going to beat up. And that relationship is so special. It's, so that's something like, I do a ton of privates whether it's judo, jiu-jitsu. A lot of times in the privates, we'll spar for just a straight hour, and we'll kind of coach them while they're going and so forth. But a lot of the times, like I'm getting that hour's worth of sparring technique and getting better and working on very specific things. Trying to hit a very small little specific technique over and over and over and over and over again. You know, even to the point where they realize it's coming, and I still try to hit it over and over. So, you know, it's without another person to kind of share that with or to do that with you, you're shadow boxing. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So it's special, man. It's really special. No other art you can really no other martial art kind of gives that to you.
Right.
You know, I guess maybe judo gets a little bit close to it, but
yeah, that's well said, man.
You know.
Yeah. So, where can people find you, man?
Well, I'm always over at the gym over at Rebel, which is over at 842 North California. You know, I don't do too much social media stuff.
You're not on social media?
not as much as I probably should be to like promote my business and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
but
yeah, the business you gotta.
You really
that's important
should.
to do.
the way I, you know, I'm kind of like a one-man show, so I'm working, man.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's anybody filming and so forth and stuff like that. But they can catch me over at Rebel Sport and Fitness. I teach the Monday and Wednesday 8 p.m. classes over at Chicago Mixed Martial Arts. And then I teach the fitness class. We do a conditioning class over at Carlson Gracie headquarters on Thursday nights, so they can catch me over there. But I am going to be, I have a project I'm working on right now, putting together a training app for jiu-jitsu fighters. It's probably about a month away from tying it all up and getting it out, but it's going to be an app that's going to try to give some good direction in how to put together a strength and conditioning program to take your performance to the next level.
It's gonna be on iTunes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What's it called?
So I haven't locked into the name.
Okay.
Something I've worked on, a project I had working before was called Gorilla Grappler.
Okay.
So right now that's the kind of the working name of it, but I might I haven't locked into it. That's why it's taken me so long. I get caught up in stupid little details like that. But
makes sense.
Yeah, so it's going to be coming out fairly soon, and it's going to have podcasts on it, training videos on it. It's going to be some good stuff. So, and it's what I'm trying to do for the jiu-jitsu community is kind of lay out the whole variability of how you can train, from training 1 day a week to training up to 6 days a week, and kind of everything in between, the reasons why you might want to choose 6 over 1, and kind of leave it as an open-ended, do what's best for you versus me telling you what you need to do. Everybody's different. Everybody's coming at it from different experiences, standpoints, different goals. So it's going to be more of a resource for the person that wants the information to put together a good training program and have some online coaching and stuff like that on there as well.
Awesome. Well, let us know when it's out. We'll
most def, man.
We'll
most def.
push it out as well.
Yeah.
Awesome, Tony. Well, man, it's been great meeting you, man.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for coming in and doing this, man. It's awesome.
This is great. I think what you guys are doing, like I told you before, this is phenomenal for not only jiu-jitsu, but the Chicago community. Chicago jiu-jitsu is kind of quiet, you know, like I don't think anybody's really trying to go out there and push a lot of publicity like the guys maybe on the West and the East Coast are. But I definitely know that the guys, the cats here in the Midwest are putting in their work. Yeah. And I know Chicago's been doing it. The jiu-jitsu's been getting a lot better. So I think this is a fantastic resource for getting the word out. And
thanks.
Kudos to you guys, man.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Tony.
No
Thanks for doing the show, man.
Yeah, man. All right, we'll see you guys.
Appreciate it. Take care, guys. Oos.
Oos.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. For more information about Grappler Union Podcast, you could visit us at our website at grapplerunion.com. You can follow us on Instagram at Grappler Union. Please like us on Facebook. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes. And all of our episodes are available on our YouTube channel. Say what?
Be sure to subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe to all that shit. You got to do another take, right? This episode of the Grappler Union Podcast is brought to you by BJJ Tees. Go to bjjtees.com, enter the promo code Grappler Union, and save 10% off all your jiu-jitsu apparel. Go to bjjtees.com today.
This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by Strychnine Jiu-Jitsu, makers of vintage-inspired tees, hoodies, and rash guards. Go to strychnine.co, that's STRYCH9.co, and use the promo code UNION at checkout to receive 20% off your online order.